This is the I Read Comic Books podcast, the very best podcast for regular comic book fans. I'm your host, Mike Rapin, and joining me this week, two friggin' nerds. This week, I'm joined by Paloma.
Hello.
And the one and only Brian Murray.
You're not wrong, but come on.
Sorry, I'm coming out very hot in this opening this week. It's it's a Friday night we're recording here, so I'm sorry. I'm very heated. But no, I'm very excited to talk comic books with the both of you today because we are talking about our Goodreads Theme of the Month books that we have for the month of May, and that is writer or artist is a person of color. And I'm excited to see what we all picked. So why don't we just get right into things? There's no comics to talk about other than the ones that we picked. So Paloma, let's start with you because coincidentally, you and I read the same exact book. So why don't you tell us what that book is and we can go into discussing it.
All right. The book is Bitterroot Volume 1, and it has co-writers. We have the super cool David F. Walker of Power Man and Iron Fist fame, and Chuck Brown with amazing artist Sanford Green, and then colors by Rico Renzi and Sanford Green, and letters by Clayton Cowles. And it's just this absolutely gorgeous, awesome book. It takes place in 1920s Harlem Renaissance, and we follow the Zander family.
For folks at home, we did spend a couple minutes before we started record just to figure out how to pronounce this family's name in the book because it's a tough one to look at. But we did get David Walker pronouncing it himself in an interview, and I think he said Sangrier. So I think we're good. Or Sangrier. There we go.
See, we've already forgotten.
We've already messed it up. We're very sorry to all of the creators on this book. We love this thing. I'm sorry.
Okay, but we follow this very cool family. There's only a handful of them left, and that's because they track down and purify these creatures known as Jinnu, which becomes like human souls that become tainted and transformed by hate and bigotry. And this family, as we find out, is kind of maybe fighting a war that they're not ready for.
Yeah, that's a great summation. Yep. So I also picked this book up. We had a discussion before this. Brian asked the question of, are we all reading the same book or not? And I never got back to him. And it
no, you did, and you said no.
Oh, no, you're right. I did get back to you. It just so happened that Paloma and I picked the same book. So I also read at least volume 1 of Bitterroot called Family Business. Yeah, I had a lot of fun reading this book. Paloma, why don't you tell us about your experience in reading it before I just start speaking forever about it?
Yeah, so I don't remember when the series came out. Maybe 2018.
Yeah.
So when the first single issues dropped, and I picked up the first maybe 2 or 3. Art was absolutely amazing. There was these really awesome essays in the back. I believe quite a few professors or scholars wrote essays kind of relating to the different elements that the book covers.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like this comic is just alive. It's so vibrant. The colors are phenomenal. And then Sanford Green, his page layouts, his fight scenes, his 2-page spreads, nothing is wasted there. It just sucks you into this world that is quite violent because we are hunting demons, and also great. They make a point for greater commentary on the racism that our characters are experiencing during this time, that the regular people in New York and Harlem are experiencing. And there's just, it's very dense and heavy, but there's levity, good comedic bits, and the action I feel really works, really hits, easy to follow.
Yeah, I read this book back when it was first coming out, so it's been quite a while since I've looked at it. But I remember being super impressed by the lighting, the color and shadow in the book.
Yeah, it's a gorgeous looking comic book, right? From start to finish. I mean, I hadn't. Sorry, I'm laughing at on video here. Brian's cat just made a daring leap onto Brian's lap. But yeah, it's such
he was in here.
such a gorgeous looking book from start to finish. Like we
Mhm.
get all like each of these individual characters are so well defined by like that classic animation idea of like, if you can put characters up in their silhouettes, can you tell each of them apart? And the answer is 100% yes, right?
Yes.
Like this book takes place in the 1920s. And while everybody is dressed for the time, for the most part, I think their uncle, he cheats a little bit. He's in like a leather jacket. And I'm just like,
Yes.
that's 1986, right? Like, but on the whole, everyone's dressed in the time period. But if you were to just put up their silhouettes, you'd know exactly who they are. So you never lose them in the comic. And this book has plenty of moments, like especially in the first volume that I read, plenty of moments where there's just chaos on the page,
Mhm.
right? Like huge swaths of people running through the streets, tons of monsters and stuff like that, tons of different people that look to be in similar dress, but you never lose focus of the main characters. They're all very distinct enough that you can find them. And I think that's, you know, Sanford Green just like totally knocking it out of the park to making sure that each of these characters in this book are so distinct. You know, the family's broken down into Etta and Blink, Cullen, Berg, and Ford. That's kind of like the main family, with Etta being the grandmother, who is this like takes no shit, understands that she's old, and is going to knock your ass out if you give her any guff, like type of person. That I love that in the first volume they did kind of imply this thing very like funnily to say that, oh well, she's just the woman who works in the house and makes the bitter root into the serum that helps cure these people of their demons. But then when she actually gets challenged, she's like, no, she will also fight you, and she'll fight you as tough as the big burly guy in the family.
Yes.
Right. I really love that. And you see Sanford Green's art, like just to keep going on that, like he shows action so uniquely for each character in this book. Like they each have their own fighting style in some way. And it's so clearly defined on the page that nothing looks just like traditional art. Like
Mhm.
every character is fleshed out in every capability, in both the art and in the storytelling. I was so blown away by this book. It's like the perfect amalgamation of like really cool time period piece, as well as a story about like demons and weird almost steampunky things, and alchemy is
Yes.
kind of touched on in the book and a little bit in the background. Like it takes all of those elements of like a supernatural action thriller and throws it together under this like Harlem Renaissance thing, with the very thin mask of like, oh, it's demons that are infecting these white people. It's like, no, it's racism actually. But I'm in the same boat as you, Paloma. I really appreciated all of the essays and art, or essays and work in the back of each of the issues that I read. If only because they added so much more color to the book that I think you could understand. I think if you start to take a holistic look at the comic series, but to read these individual essays, kind of breaking down the different pieces of why these certain aspects of the story are so important to what the book is trying to do, beyond just like, let's kill demons, you know, like we're the good guys, they're the bad guys. Like I found that to be super enriching. And I will say, I like reading back matter. Sometimes I could get a little bit exhausted. But this book, I found every single essay to be like the perfect length, easy to read, adding enough, tying enough back to the comic book that I was like, oh no, I want to know all of this stuff. Like it was so cool. Yeah, this is a crazy, amazing book. Like I don't know how I slept on this, because I think I read the first issue as well, and then I just never went back to it, like I do so many other Image books. But I'm so glad I got to sit down and read this first issue, because it fucking rules.
Oh, so good. And what I really like is the mix of, we're the reader, and so like our main characters like the experts of their world, but then we're learning more about like the lore and the depths of the world, as they're like, whoa, we've never seen this before. So I like how we're learning with the characters as well. We're learning together of the horrors that are to come.
Yeah.
And that's a tough balance to strike when you're trying to like have an established world where like these are the people who should know these things. So how do you put yourself in a position where you can explain things to the audience that it would make no sense for the characters to be explaining to each other? And that's, you throw shit at them they've never seen before either.
Yeah. I mean, the hook at the end of this first volume is like classic Image bullshit that I love. Like, do not get me wrong, but it is classic like end of book one cliffhanger stuff that I think Image books do so well, where they're like, we've given you a taste of the world and we've shown you little bits and pieces. Now we're going to expand upon it like massively. And like I said this in my notes, like I just want to know about every single character. I don't need to know the main storyline. Like, I want to read a story that's just about Edda. I want to read a story that's just about Blink. I want to read a story that's just about Cullen, right? Like the uncle who's down in Mississippi, just like straight up killing KKK members. Just like, there's no redeeming these guys. It's like, oh, fucking yeah, dude. Yeah, I want to read those stories. Like, there's so much delivered to us just in the first volume. Like, I know, Paloma, I think you read a little bit further than me, but man, oh man, they established so much in just one volume. I'm like, please let this go forever. And I know that this book went on for like 2 or 3 more volumes, and I think there's another volume that more recently came out that's like the next generation or something. But yeah, and I don't know, what were your thoughts as you continued forward on this, Paloma?
I think I absolutely love it. It's definitely one of those stories that's like very go, and like with volume 1, there's like not enough time for our characters to breathe, but in a way that I think works to show like the desperation and how like new this threat is that they're facing. And the art like stays like beautiful. I can't remember, I don't know, volume 1, because I was reading from the compendium, there's like during like their like single issue break, they released kind of like a Red Summer like little anthology like stories in there. So maybe that may be in volume 2 for you. But there's like just good, it's so good.
Okay.
Like to go on. I'm very excited to read like the last volume, I think, of like this first arc before like this new series kind of like really picks up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm totally on board. Like, I had to force myself to stop reading the other night because it was like 1:30 in the morning. I was like, I could just read 1 issue of volume 2, right? It's like, no, Mike, go to bed right now.
Because you couldn't just read the 1 issue.
Exactly. Yeah, no, I'm super jazzed about this. I'm really glad that I finally sat down to read it for the theme of the month thing that we were doing here. Yeah, I don't know. Brian, did you have any more thoughts about this? I know you said you read it a while ago, but like, what got you drawn in? Do you remember?
I loved the setting. Like, I really enjoyed like reading stuff from the Harlem Renaissance back in high school, and so getting a chance to see like a fictionalized version of that world that is still like true to history, except for all the alchemy and demons and stuff.
Right.
But the alchemy was actually another big part of it. I didn't realize this connection until you were talking, but I'm actually playing in a Pathfinder game right now where I'm playing an alchemist in 1920s New York.
What?
Well, then now is the time for you to just establish some lore that, you go up to Harlem and you help fight some demons, just make that part of the story.
Yeah, I'll try to work that in when I'm not busy being Dr. Jekyll.
Okay, good. Well, yeah, I'm definitely, like I said, looking forward to reading the next volume of this. Paloma, let us know, because I definitely want to. I didn't realize there was a compendium out of this. I just grabbed all the single issues for this book. But I'll have to give that a look. If there's a special issue that's in there, maybe that's the reason to go get the compendium. So
yeah, maybe it's in volume 2, but no, it was a good one. It might have been called Red Summer. Don't quote me on that, but it was very good.
Well, the Bitterroot Omnibus is on Hoopla, so
that's my source.
Oh, interesting. Support your local libraries, kids. Brian, why don't you tell us about what you read for this episode?
Yeah, I went the nonfiction route, surprising myself as much as anybody else.
Okay.
I read The Best We Could Do, an illustrated memoir by T. Bowie. This is a memoir about her and her family and what it was like being Vietnamese immigrants to the U.S. very like recently post-war, like pretty immediately after the war. And yeah, like the struggles that her parents faced growing up in pre-war Vietnam when everything was kind of going to shit.
How did you I think this has been on like a lot of like lists or whatever. At least I knew the name of this book, but how did you come across it?
I just did a quick Google search because I know May is AAPI History Month. And so I just searched for AAPI comics, and this was one of the top ones that came recommended.
Nice. How was your experience reading through this book? It sounds like it's a very heavy book in comparison to Bitterroot.
It is. it's similar to like Mouse in the way that it's like it's really good, it's really well made, and it's just a kick in the chest sometimes.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if you know this, but things were not always great in French colonial Vietnam.
You don't say.
Or French Indochina, as they called it back in the day.
I never knew that. I should say I've heard that name before, but I didn't know that it was referring to Vietnam. Okay. Thank you for connecting a weird dot in my head. I did not know that.
Yeah. One of many things I learned. I think one of my favorite part about reading this memoir was that, like, even though so much of this book was like things I could understand on a conscious level, but I didn't really like connect with because I grew up as a white boy in the suburbs of Michigan. Like my lived experience is wildly different.
Mm-hmm.
But there are certain moments where I'm like, oh yeah, that is like, despite all these cultural barriers, like I also know what it's like to have an emotionally distant mother. I also don't know how to tell my family I love them sometimes.
I mean, some things are universal. It turns out that
yeah,
parents are weird everywhere.
And then she goes into why her parents are the way they are. Then I'm like, oh, my parents didn't have that. my parents are just from West Michigan. They were not. They're emotionally repressed culturally, not due to trauma.
Oh, I see.
It's a very cool looking book too. The art style it's very simple. Kind of like sketchy sometimes, but it's done in such a way that, like, when you look at characters, none of them look exactly the same. So even though the faces are all drawn very simply, there's always like some feature on these characters where I go, oh, that's definitely her dad, or that's her brother in this picture.
Yeah, I'm looking through a preview right now, and yeah, I definitely understand what you mean. Like there is like an extreme simplicity to this book on some pages, but then like drastic amounts of detail on other. Like that's such an interesting way to make this book. I wonder if the intention was like to show the severity or like the intensity of the moment when the details get very specific, because it seems that it might be for part of that, right? Like the opening in this preview is talking about, like, I think it's her mother giving birth, and yeah, like
it starts with her giving birth.
Okay. And they do a zoom in on her face, and it's very, very detailed, and then we zoom out, and it's like very simplistic looking room and stuff. Like, interesting. Very interesting.
I did notice too that the scenes that are set in America are much more simply designed than the ones set in Vietnam, where you get much more detail in the background, a much like broader, I guess, view of the world around the characters.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if that's just because they kind of assume that you know what the USA looks like, so you don't really need a lot of details about San Diego, but
I don't know what the fuck San Diego looks like. Give me the details, all right?
It's got a lot of hills.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
That's San Francisco, isn't it?
Yeah, I was just gonna let you have it, Brian. I was just gonna let you have it, But yeah, no, this is a really interesting looking book, like in the way that she uses watercolor to like emphasize different parts of the page, and like uses it almost as like a secondary illustration on some pages to like not draw you away from what the focus of the book is, but to just like illustrate maybe what someone's talking about or something that's like intense in the moment. Or like I'm seeing this page where it looks like someone's walking out of a house and like the house is barely drawn in paint, but the person is in like a clear like outline. That's a really, really cool way to like highlight different pieces of the page without having to use more than one color, right? Because it's like a 2-color book, yeah.
And then they use that limited color palette to great effect. Because the color that they use is this like almost rusty red color, and it kind of like it plays into this idea of blood, of family, And it also, like, depending on the saturation, it can be like a light, almost rose color, but then in other scenes, it's this very dark, very blood red. And I think that that's used extremely well.
Yeah, absolutely. Paloma, you said you read this before as well?
Yeah, I think I read it around the time it like came out, and I absolutely loved it. It is I hadn't read many like graphic memoirs before, so this was kind of like my first, besides Mouse, but this is similar, like in terms of like severity and like maybe like more simple art style, but this definitely I feel like a little bit more unique, where you don't really see memoirs, at least of the time, like with someone like having to come from Vietnam, not really because they want to. And it was also kind of like my first experience with like memoirs of like any nature, kind of being like, let me like go back and understand my parents, and like kind of reconciling how like our not main character, but the author was like, I won't necessarily ever get what I want or need, and I'm going to understand why, and then maybe be different for my son, either her child who she gives birth to at the beginning. But yeah, I thought it was very, very unique to for her to like use this memoir to explore like why her parents are the way that they are, and then like talk about like her experiences, but to go back through like the whole like her family with like her parents, and then all the way to herself. I was like, this is great storytelling for a memoir.
Yeah, I mean, at one point she's talking about like her father's grandfather. Is kind of like how far back we go. We don't get a ton of detail that far back, but just to give you that idea of like everybody comes from somewhere.
So interesting. I always appreciate stories like this, if only because I never think I never think of the world like that for myself, right? I feel like I have a very like disconnected sense of like understanding like where I come from and who I am. It's very like inbred American like insanity, where it's just like I come from nowhere and I am my own tree, like they're it's like a weird thought.
Have you ever seen like the picture in the grocery store of just the box of assorted crackers? That's my family tree.
Yeah, there we go. But no, I find it to be interesting because I think like there's like a story like this portrays the idea of like the importance and like the importance of like where your family coming from getting you to the place that you are. And I think for someone like myself, like I have this weird sense of like fog behind me of like, I don't know where these people came from, but it's so far removed from like my current situation that I can't connect with it because there is not a recency to it, right? Like I think at some point my brother did like some sort of family tree thing, and I think like my family came to the United States in like the 1700s or something like that. I don't remember any details other than that one piece, and it's like that's so far removed that I just like I can't connect with it. Whereas clearly in her story, it's like her family leaving Vietnam was like, it sounds, just to correct me if I'm wrong, like it's because of the Vietnam War, right? They came to the United States, or was it something else?
That was the impression that I got.
Okay.
I might be misremembering, but the feeling that I got was it was as much like being displaced by the war because Vietnam was no longer like a safe place to be.
Okay.
So I think you nailed it on the head, where like they didn't want to leave, they kind of had to leave.
Yeah, and it sounds like that displacement was like clearly a source of like all sorts of trauma and things with her family. It's like that migration that immigration from one place to another can severely affect people. It's like I guess like the thing that I'm getting at is it's hard to it's good to see stories like that because it's like a reminder of like I'm not just the single tree that I explained myself as before. So anyways, I'm gonna keep rambling, but do you guys have any other thoughts you want to talk about? Otherwise I'm just gonna keep making myself sound like a dumbass.
No, if I get set off, I'll start talking about my family tree because my dad's sister is the family historian.
Oh,
so
okay.
I know fucking every honky going back to 1750.
Okay. How many Brians are there in your family? Just out of curiosity.
Just me.
Just you. Okay.
Got a couple of Williams way back in the day, but those are the only repeats.
Okay. Interesting. Well, cool. I guess, I don't know. I feel like I wrote a lot of notes about Bitterroot, but we've talked about a lot of it already. So I think that's where we will wrap things up for today. I really am excited to see what other people pick for this theme of the month. Always looking for recommendations for folks over on the Goodreads. So make sure you head over to our Goodreads. There's a link in the show notes for that. And make sure to add your book that you read for this month and the book that you're going to be reading for the reading challenge, all that other stuff. We've got so many things going on over there. I can't believe how many people participate in all of the stuff we have over on our Goodreads. So thank you all out there for participating. You are fantastic human beings. I want to say thank you to everyone out there listening. Thank you to Paloma and Brian for your time today. Thank you to Zach for proof listening. Thank you to Zander for editing the show. Thanks to all the patrons. We don't give the patrons a big shout too often. So thanks for making the show continue running on. And as we say on every episode of I Read Comic Books, until next time, comics are good, and so are you.